So brand new tonight, the highly anticipated testimony before the House by former National Security Advisor John Bolton is now slated for next week, but his attorney says that it will not happen voluntarily. The inquiry is set finally to get a full House vote tomorrow morning. We expect that around 11:30 or so tomorrow morning. We'll have full coverage for you throughout the morning on that. That is expected to formalize the procedures and also to get everybody to stand up and vote yes or no on whether they want to move forward here, which should be very interesting. Here now, Republican Congressman Doug Collins, ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee. Sir, good to see you tonight. Thank you very much for being here.
Well, it's good to be with you.
You know, first of all, to John Bolton, there's been a lot of sort of consternation over what he might say. He's very central to a lot of the people's testimony that we've heard from. He was quoted by one of them as saying, that Rudy Giuliani is a hand grenade that's going to blow us all up. What do you think about what's coming there?
Well, I think it's just another one of these ideas that, again, was said earlier. We're only hearing what Adam Schiff wants us to hear. And I think this is the part of the whole problem. And John Bolton coming, and whether he doesn't come or not, I think was left to be seen. I think they'll end up having to subpoena him. And I think there's some significant issues there with him coming. But I think what we're having to understand is no matter what we've heard about what John Bolton heard, said, or did, is coming through the lens of Adam Schiff, who has become the sole arbiter of everything impeachment-wide because he has been made the judge, jury, and prosecutor of this case. And that's a concern that really should concern media, and it should concern the American people, because we're not hearing a full story here.
Are you glad that there's going to be a vote tomorrow?
It's sad because they've missed an opportunity all along to make fairness a staple of this House. I'm sad that they're shredding the rules. They're putting a vote up tomorrow, and they're going to tell their members that this is something that we're just simply codifying, we're making it fair. Here's the realization. They're still not letting the president defend himself until it gets to the Judiciary Committee. And only then they stick in a rule that's pretty amazing, that if the Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler, who has no liking for this president, decides that the president's attorneys or others are not being forthright in their request or their desire to ask questions, he can decide that they don't get to ask questions. This is a sad time right now for the House of Representatives, Martha.
So, the president tweeted something about this whole discussion earlier today, and he was urging Republicans to focus on the substance rather than the process here. He says, go with substance and close it out, because his argument on all of this is that there is nothing impeachable here, that he didn't do anything wrong, that there was no quid pro quo. Why is there not more focus on that part of the equation from your side of the aisle?
Well, there is focus on that, Martha, but also let's think about how we're being able to do this. They put it into a dark room. They've let Adam Schiff have the key to the kingdom, so to speak, and have threatened us that we can't talk about anything that's going on. Our members talk about what can go on. I'll show you how bad it's gotten today. I went to actually view the transcripts and things that I am entitled to view under the rules of the House and was told I could not do that. I'll argue the substance all day long. I'll talk about the substance of Bill Taylor having fourth-hand information that he takes as a first-hand information. We'll talk about the fact that I've seen the transcript and there's no quid pro quo. We'll talk about the fact that the Ukrainians didn't even know that any of these discussions were taking place until an article in late August that they found out that there was even something going on. But let's also go back to the fact they got the equipment they needed. They never did anything that was supposedly demanded of them. There's no quid pro quo here. You can have both a process argument and a substantive argument. The process should lead you to the substance. The Democrats have decided that they don't want any part of either one because all they want to do is impeach the president so that he can run as an impeached president. This is a blatant power grab by Speaker Pelosi, who has no consideration for her House.
Lindsey Graham said today that they will not get one Senate GOP vote towards impeachment, which does, raise that legitimate question that you bring up about the political nature of this and whether or not there's just a desire to have the president sort of run with the albatross of impeachment around his neck as he runs into 2020 here. I'm curious, because you are in the House, what you think about this vote tomorrow and how it's going to look for those members who are in Trump districts, who were elected in the midterms, who are going to, I guess, stand up and vote in favor of this process, or whether or not some of them, how many of them might be protected by, being given the okay to vote no.
I think right now the interesting thing is there's a golden ticket out there for all the folks who want to vote no, better than the Willy Wonka segments out here, and they're desperate to get them. But let it be very clear to anybody watching this: any Democrat who votes for this tomorrow is voting for an impeachment inquiry, because this is exactly what is going to happen, and it's going to be done in an unfair way. So do not make any mistake about it. They vote for this, they're going to have to go back to their voters and explain why they voted to begin impeachment.
So you're saying even if they vote no, they're voting yes?
Oh, if they vote no, then they're just getting a ticket. Yeah, they're getting it.
All right. Doug Collins, Representative, thank you very much. Good to see you. Ranking member
always good to see you.
of the
Take
Judiciary
care.
Committee. You too. Got a lot of work ahead of you. We'll be watching tomorrow.